Hey, what's going on, guys? Look, I'm doing a lot more content like this because I want to tie it into production and videos that I'm filming to include on Mike Force podcast and my own personal channel, which I've linked down below. One of the things that I talked about on the podcast were mistakes people make in EDC or everyday carry. Some of those mistakes I want to break out now because I think there are urban myths around certain things, and that's why people do it. One of the examples of that is the pew that you carry. When you say I'm carrying it concealed, or I have a CCW, or it's part of my everyday carry in concealment, we immediately default to a compact or subcompact. And I think that's a mistake. I actually think it's a significant mistake that not a lot of people pay attention to. For example, you might go into your local pew store and you say, hey, I'm getting my CCW, don't know much about this. What do you recommend? Well, the first part of the recommendation is going to be, look at this compact or subcompact. And that's a mistake. Because if you take something like a G43X, I'm not even going to say the word because I'll get suppressed. A G43X, look it up if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. If you pick that up, immediately it's compact, it's sleek, and you know it can conceal better than a full size. Why is that a mistake? Well, one, the rod and recoil spring are meant to dissipate both muzzle flip and felt recoil. And this is just how I frame it. Other people frame it different ways. You get muzzle flip or muzzle rise, and then you get the inertia or momentum of it driving it to the rear, which is recoil. So you get muzzle flip or muzzle rise, and then you get recoil. The reason I think a lot of people don't pay attention to this is because they go in, they trust the person at the front desk, they make the recommendation, and then they don't spend a lot of time training with that. If you've ever pewed a compact or subcompact, even with big hands, guys, I wear size 13 shoes and I have a massive hand and I'm 6'1". I feel like I've stunted my growth because I'm half Korean, but I have big mitts and big feet. Nothing else is large, just those two. But if you take my large hand, or if you take a tiny hand, if you're a woman with a tiny hand or a man with a tiny hand, no offense, and you put them on a G43X, it's going to be difficult to manage either way. That's why I look at subcompacts and go, guys, my hand's too big for a subcompact. If I take a G43, I am swamping and overwhelming that pew. So what's the balance? Well, it could be G19 or it could be G17. If you take a G19 on top of a G17, it's the same width and it's slightly bigger. But we call a G17 full size, and some people call a G19 compact. I wouldn't call that compact, but okay. It's slightly varied. And if you're a bigger guy, I would say above average, like 5'9" and above, I have a 32-inch waist, I don't print with a full-size G17. So again, a misnomer in EDC is that you need to carry compact and concealed. One, to reduce signature. You don't want to print in clothing. Two, you want something more concealable overall. But is that necessarily the case? Look, I have a fanny pack. This is Fieldcraft's fanny pack. We actually have this available now. It's in stock on longhaulsupplycompany.com. It's linked down below. But if you take this, I could fit a G19 in this. In the middle of summer in board shorts and a t-shirt, I can get away with carrying this. This is an extension of your capability because it gives me more capacity or space to carry more crap. I just want you to carry the right crap. So nothing against compacts. I get it. Like some guys want smaller pews. Some women especially want smaller pews. I think we've overemphasized the ideal of concealment because we think that smaller is more concealable and that means better for EDC. Not necessarily. When I was a contractor, I carried every single day in EDC in the waistband appendix carry a G17, a full size. Lastly, just let me make the point, and I detail this in the podcast on Mike Force, which I've linked down below, and we go into training blocks on my Patreon. For tier 1, we're doing what's called range days, where I'm walking you through training. We're actually doing training together. You set up the phone, your ear pods are in, your muffs are on, and I'm going to help you set the targets. We're going to go through the rules of firearm safety, and I'm going to be your range companion. Here's another thing that people get wrong. Lights. People default to an EDC light on their pew. For sure, do that. But also have a standalone handheld version of it. Why? Because in everyday carry, there's practicality as well. Like, what are the things I do every single day where I need the thing? I use my knife or my blade more to open boxes than anything else in EDC. Sure, if I'm going hunting, if I'm going fishing, there's specific use, but in everyday habits and routines, your handheld and your light on your pew is going to be 500 lumens, which is super bright. This is what I want you to do. I want you to take your light. I want you to go into a dark room. I want you to find an object. It could be the light switch that you just turned off. But in the dark, find an object on the wall. And from your perspective, take the light, illuminate the object, and then turn it off. With 500 lumens, it's about 7 to 15 seconds, depending on the distance to the object, the age of your eyes, a whole bunch of different things, right? But on average, it's about 7 to 15 seconds for your eyes to adjust to that. Well, Mike, why would that matter? Because a lot of the defense characteristics of us carrying lights is based off the one target that we see. Because if I light him up with a light, I'm blinding him, which is one of the self-defense benefits of a light, at least as proposed. And when I light him up, I don't consider, what if he has a friend? What if there's 3 of them? So then I light him up, I'm illuminating my position, and his buddy sees me and lights me up, right? We don't really think about it in complex or more complicated scenarios. We also don't think about it from our perspective. If you illuminate a threat with your naked eye from your position with 500 lumens, it's 7 to 15 seconds on average. Now, this is not conclusive because it depends on your eyes. If you have really healthy eyes and you hit it, you might get 5 seconds. But anyway, it takes time for your eyes to adjust. Now, let's take 100 lumens of lights. Actually, let's take 50 to 100. That's about on average what your cell phone is illuminating. Can you positively identify? Yes. Are you going to blind the subject? Probably not. But how long does it take for your eyes to regain vision? Oh, and by the way, you have to be in a room with ambient light because your eyes and the cones in your eyes kind of work like night vision. When there's ambient light, like the moon or a little bit of ambient light underneath the door, your eyes adjust faster and can see in the dark because of that ambient light. So if you take 50 to 100, can I see the target? Yes. Can I positively identify? Meaning, can I see the hands, the demeanor? Yes. And then how long does it take for my eyes to adjust once I turn it off? Again, from my perspective, like I'm thinking about my eyes from my perspective. I shine the light with 100 lumens. I turn it off, 3 to 5 seconds. A lot less time. So what's the answer? Well, if your EDC is only a light underneath your pew that is illuminating 500 lumens, because for some reason we think more lumens equals better, then you might want to consider having a handheld that has 2 points of adjustment, kicking out 50 to 100 or lower light lumens, and then extreme light. A slight depress is 50 to 100, and a strong depress 500 plus. We have to think about these things. Lastly, train how you fight. You got all this sexy equipment. I talk about this on the podcast ad nauseum. You have a whole bunch of sexy equipment. It doesn't make sense for you to have the equipment if you're not training on it. If you carry a fanny pack like me, because dad life, have the fanny pack, have the Merce, European man satchel, whatever you're into, but train with that. It's one of the reasons why I put like these little big T handles to be able to access the pew, because I could do it with a big gross movement versus trying to find the little tiny tab on the end of a zipper. And you got to practice it and rehearse it. A lot of that dry fire and practice might have to happen at home because a lot of ranges don't let you practice that way, which is, again, one of the biggest issues that we face is we can't train like we fight. I'm just throwing that out there because these are things that I've seen. I even talk about decision point and why it's important to understand local laws. self-defense, and then your criteria for using deadly force in that conversation. We talk about that in the podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Fieldcraft Outpost and everything that we're doing, powered by Long Haul Supply Company. Until next time, guys, peace out.